Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the JJ and Hootie Show. And we appreciate you tuning in from whatever platform you're checking us out on. We're on just about every platform imaginable, so including YouTube. So if you can hit your subscribe buttons, it would help us out. Doesn't cost you anything, and spread the word. Our audience keeps growing week by week, and we love reminiscing with some former Virginia players and coaches, etc. And we really appreciate you sharing some of your uh, free time with us, and it means a lot to us. We appreciate it here on the Hootie and JJ Show. I'm Hootie, and he's JJ, Coach Jeff Jones, former Virginia player and coach. And it's our pleasure and privilege today to bring on a special guest who really needs no introduction to anybody affiliated with UVA, and even if you're just a casual fan. And we're talking about wonderful Wally Walker from the 1976 MVP of the ACC Tournament Championship year, which was a special year to all Wahoos for sure. Wally, thanks for taking some of your time out of your day to be with us. We appreciate it.
Good to be with you, Jerry, as always.
And
And Jeff, sorry, I don't mean to exclude that guy.
oh, absolutely. Key cog in the show.
Yeah, I got the title. I heard that part.
um, I guess, Wally, for those who haven't been keeping up with you, just talk a little bit about, before we go back and reminisce a little bit, just talk a little bit about your role since coming back to Virginia a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I've been back just over 2 years now, and feel settled. And my wife, who's never lived on the East Coast until we came back 2 years ago, has loved it here. And this won't surprise you guys, but people here have been incredibly welcoming and gracious to her and to me. But I had a running start at it with old friends being here, and she's loved it. So it's been a great transition. And in fact, she just sent me we had a recent anniversary. She sent me this move back has been the best idea ever to come back here. So, and professionally, I'm here to help wherever I'm asked to help, and some of it I got to self-identify because if I see something, a place where I think, I can be of help and might have a skill set that will help us advance what we're trying to do. And while I'm doing that, of course, college athletics has completely changed in the last couple of years, and probably going to change again. So I do like the challenge of trying to connect the new dots and figuring out, how we're going to get from here to there. And we're going to do it the right way, the Virginia way. And I like that too.
Can you give us just some example, I guess, of some of the contributions you may have made since you've been back in terms of philosophy or ideas or anything really?
Well, a couple of things. I don't like to talk about it too much, but I'll mention a couple of things. One is a prospective one, but if you're following online and you see this Corner Media, it's our online media content now, where our student athletes are actually doing the broadcasters. They're actually doing the interviews for other student athletes. It's a unique way to get behind the scenes and get the stories of our players in all sports. And we really needed, just in this day and age, that kind of content to be produced. But where it really helps, and we're in the early stages, so we're not there yet, but we're making good progress. With commercial NIL now, we've got to find a way for our players to actually generate income for themselves. And with them being on the air, and we have so all produced on social media, so the social media hits will generate sponsorship, which will then generate commercial NIL and income for our players. So it works on all levels. It's good for our fans to see behind the scenes. It's going to be good for our players to get revenue and income. And it's one of those ones that I started talking to the folks, our partners now at College Sports Co. Almost 2 years ago, and we got the deal done last fall, and now we're going. So that's been a fun one. The other one I'll just mention, the prospective one. I can't say too much about, but we're working on a holiday tournament where it will also generate commercial NIL for our players. Holiday being Thanksgiving holiday, starting this fall. I don't even want to name it because we don't have a deal done yet. But it's one that will be significant for exposure, for competition, and for commercial NIL opportunities for our guys.
That's a
Wally,
big,
obviously the Virginia fans all know about your amazing college career and that you had a very successful NBA career, but your NBA career on the business side of it, on the management side, was almost as long, I think, as your playing days.
Oh, longer, yeah.
Longer, okay. Now, so can you talk a little bit about that, and if that prepared you at all for some of the tasks that you've undertaken at UVA?
Well, interesting. That's a really good question, Jeff. I was 7 years the general manager, and we had the third best record in the NBA during those 7 years. You wouldn't know that to read the media around that time, but we were really good. We won we won the division. And by the way, in our division at that time were the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq, and we won it 3 straight years. And we got to the finals in '96 against a team which we lost to, of course. But I think consensus is the greatest team of all time, the '96 Bulls, is who we lost to. So anyway, we had good years, good teams. But what I had to adjust to quickly, I think, to your question, when I took the job in '94, I knew nothing about the salary cap. I knew there was a cap. I knew vague things about it. But, yeah, guess what? That's what you got to use to operate with. And the salary cap changed a year later. So we had actually a work stoppage in the summer of '95 when the cap changed. That was great for me because then I wasn't behind on what I needed to learn. And like today's college athletics environment, because of a change, that presents opportunities. Because with change, you got to figure out ways, again, how are we going to build our roster? How are we going to do this within the rules we now have? One of the real challenges in college athletics, and I'll tell you guys, is we need something like a pro collective bargaining agreement where you actually have rules. You still got to figure out how to use them to your advantage for your roster. But college athletics, we don't really have what we think are hard and fast rules. And to the degree that we do have a framework, it's not clear that framework is enforceable, with what's going on with the transfer portal and the money. So that makes it trickier for college sports. But there are sort of direct applications that I've seen from my early NBA days.
Just your opinion, and you may not be able to talk on this, but we've seen in the news on the football side, University of Georgia had a young man that had signed a contract with them for revenue share and left, and most recently at Duke, and they've since kind of worked it out. What are your feelings about should those contracts be enforceable? Are they enforceable?
Well, that's unclear, and that is really one of the crazy aspects of where we currently are, because we still haven't really established legally, at least to my knowledge, I'm practicing without a license here, what takes precedence, a contract or the transfer portal? Because we've had a number of instances. The first one that I knew about was a defensive back at Wisconsin that also went to Miami. That was a year plus ago in the portal. Had a contract, the school took a chance and guaranteed the money, and then the player still had a good year and put himself in the portal. Well, I mean, to me, if you don't have the sanctity of a contract, it's meaningless. And really, from a school's perspective, they're kind of one way. The player maybe doesn't play as well as you hoped or gets hurt. Well, then you've got a contract for a couple of years. The school's going to feel obligated to fulfill it, and to my knowledge, has fulfilled. I know, of course, we always would. But if the player plays great and has a higher marketplace value than the guarantee of the second year, well, they can put themselves in the portal. So that one way, optionality for one side of the equation just doesn't work and can't work long term. That needs to be rectified.
Would you be in favor? You think? And I don't. These are all concepts and ideas that I read about.
Sure.
with Congress? Do you think that's a viable solution to get collective bargaining and
That
some of
that
these
is the
others?
silver bullet solution. That's what we're all hoping for, because then you have a system, a framework. Would probably require federal legislation, because you can't do it state by state. That we know that doesn't work, and why would it? So it has to be federally mandated, some form of a collective bargaining agreement where the deal is struck. You can't have somebody say, "Well, I don't like my deal," or so I'm going to sue you on either side. No, the agreement, like all the professional leagues have, means a deal is a deal, and you have a framework and you have rules. And if the rules are violated, then there are consequences. We need all that.
How do you guys, it seems like every time you get accustomed to working under one structure, the structure changes. How that must drive you guys crazy just trying to manage things under they keep moving the goalposts on you.
They do, but it's just, those goalposts move for everybody. And I think we've adjusted really well as an athletic department and adapted, and will continue to do so. I'm confident of that. And what's tricky, I'm going to use a pejorative verb here, but it's been out there a long time in college athletics, is, cheat is the verb. And, we're not going to do that. But when you don't even know what the rules are, we're still going to abide by what we believe they are, but not everyone does. And so maybe cheating isn't even the right word if you don't know what exactly the rules are, because it's so nebulous.
Yeah, I can't remember which SEC coach it was, but he said, "Yeah, we used to have this system back years ago. We just called it cheating."
Well, so somebody said, we used to have to come in the back door with the money. Now we just we win the front door. So,
But I know a lot of people are not satisfied with the way the things are structured. But if I'm a Virginia fan right now, I got to be kind of happy with the way things are, because it has given you more of a balanced playing field, really. I mean, uh, without that $25 million donation last year for the football team, I'm not sure it would have added up to an 11 win season. And I, to me, if I'm a Wahoo fan, I would think that I would embrace it, because it gives you a fighting chance.
it does. And, I think every reason for our fans to be proud of what happened. And that was done under the system that was in effect until June 30th, at least on the money side, which was the money that was raised was called NIL money, but it was really money that was going to the players, and everyone was doing it. And the money had to be paid to the players before July 1st, or in other words, June 30th of last year, to not go on this academic year's cap. And so we all tried it, and we did it effectively. Generous donors, where money was raised and then allocated wisely. Football, men's basketball coming off kind of subpar years to really improve those rosters.
It's funny, and this is just hearsay from talking to my former colleagues in the basketball coaches community. There's a lot of them that are banking on rules changes, and they're making some big, as Will Wade, I guess, said, some big ass offers to that would
Will has a history
the
of that.
rev share agreement totally out of the water.
Well, what's tricky, and I'll try to pick my words carefully here, and maybe I won't succeed, but when you have the salary cap, the revenue share and salary cap are the same things in college athletics now, which is a hard cap, but then you have the commercial NIL that can get paid to players on top of that. Well, what's going on out there is schools and anything of the commercial NIL, it has to be a market-based deal and then approved by the College Sports Commission as to being a real market equitable deal. Well, schools are offering commercial NIL before they even have a sponsor to pay for that commercial NIL, let alone have it approved. So that's what's going in the compensation packages, and where a lot of people are saying, well, that's going to get changed. Well, maybe it will, but we don't know that yet.
Yeah. Well, if the NCAA wins that lawsuit, because ultimately it'll be decided with a lawsuit, if the past is any
I think that's right.
gauge.
I think that's right. They haven't
But
won one for a
if it's
while.
if the NCAA actually wins the lawsuit,
Yeah.
that will be cause for celebration because that doesn't happen very often.
No, and this we're all reacting to what happened in 2021. For a little history that you all and probably a lot of your listeners are well aware. It was a Supreme Court ruling in 2021 that got us to the place where players, student athletes, were able to be paid, and that Supreme Court ruling was 9-0. Now, that was not a split decision at the highest level.
Yeah, yeah. All right, enough this business stuff, Wally. Let's talk about 1976.
50 years.
Did you guys think that you would have that kind of year, that you had that kind of run in you when you started the season?
No, we were young. I was the only senior, and Bill Lang, I was the only junior. So we were playing, freshmen and sophomores back when, that was not as common as it is now. So we thought we were going to be pretty talented and big. And I was going in my senior year. I was starting the season. So I was finally healthy. So we thought we'd be good. But I don't think anyone was sitting around saying, I think this is an ACC championship team. Let's just play the game, see what happens. What did happen, though, was we got better throughout the year. And our friend Coach Holland, one of his main tenets and yardsticks for measuring a coach's ability was how the team improved or how they did throughout the year. And his team's 10-2, and that year our team, it was just the second year here at Virginia, clearly did. And the young players got better. We got better playing together, and didn't always show up in wins, but we lost on a buzzer beater at UNC late in the season. The last home game was Virginia Tech, who'd beaten us by 20 just 2 months before, and they were a tournament team back when there was only 32 teams going to the tournament. So they were very good, and we beat them at home, the last home game before the tournament. So anyway, we progressed, and we were reasonably confident for a team that was 4-8 in conference play going into the ACC tournament.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, no, I was just, if you can remind everybody, because it wasn't just that you beat, three teams, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Three ranked.
Not just three, it was three really, really good teams in that stretch. Talk about, if you will, just briefly, each of those three games. And, at the end of it, how tired were you guys? I mean, was that had to be physically challenging?
Yeah, well, none of us have played 3 games in 3 nights, let alone those magnitude of importance games. But to put a little more meat on those bones, we played NC State in the first round. They were ranked 17th or 18th in the country. In my now 4th year, that was going to be my last time, NC State had eliminated us from the ACC tournament each of the previous 3 years. And my teams had never once beaten NC State. Now, the first 3 years, David Thompson was there. And one of those years, they were also the national champion. Another year, they were undefeated, but they were suspended by the NCAA. So anyway, so they had great teams and the best player in college basketball in DT. So, but then the following, we still hadn't beaten them. They lost to them twice in the regular season. So, but we went in again confident with the game. And I can remember after the game, Billy Langlow was a really good player. I worry he's gotten a little forgotten how good he was. But we were best friends and roomies, and we're standing in the locker room and said, we just won. That would have been our 16th win. We won 16 games. We're advancing to the 7th. Okay, maybe we've done something here. So we're literally just taking them one at a time. Then we played Maryland, and a couple of funny twists there. That was the first year the ACC tournament was not in the state of North Carolina, and it was in Maryland. Maryland had a great team, I think ranked 8th in the country at that time. John Lucas was All-American, and when that was going to be within 2 months going to be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft, was on that. But they had, 5, 6 guys in the NBA, a bunch of first-round picks, as they always did under Lefty. And we're playing them, 5 miles from College Park, from their campus. So like a home game for them. Well, we're playing great, confidently, and win it, kind of going away. And we're at halftime, and the locker rooms were kind of, I guess, assigned, I don't know, randomly. It turned out our locker room was right next to Maryland's locker room in the Capitol Center. And cinder block walls, but maybe not all that thick because we're at halftime and we've got a lead. And Coach Holland's going through the adjustments, the same thing that all coaches do at a halftime, what the things we've got to do. And all of a sudden he puts his hand up with a pause, like, we're going to stop here because he hears something through the cinder block wall. Well, he hears his old coach and mentor, Lefty, screaming at his guys. So he just puts his hand up and asks us, listen to this for a second. So Lefty's going off as only Lefty could do. And we listened to it for a minute. And Coach Holland says, well, I don't have much more to say, but I can tell you this. I've been in that locker room. Guys, we're going to be fine. Just keep doing what you're doing. So we got to win the game. And now we're playing UNC, who was ranked, I think, 4th in the country at that time. And Lefty, in a funny twist, this at a time where now the rules had just changed the year before, where you didn't have to win the ACC tournament to go to the NCAAs, but they were only going to take 2 per conference. So Maryland sitting there with a top 10 in the country team, but knowing that if we win, they're not going because it's going to be us and UNC. So Lefty says publicly, he says, this is the first time in my life I've ever cheered for UNC, for North Carolina. But there we were playing in Maryland again and playing, great UNC. And to your question, Jeff, about being tired, again, Billy Langlow and I were roommates. And we woke up after playing the previous 2 games that the morning of the game. And one of us, I don't remember who, it doesn't matter, said to the other, how are we going to play this game tonight? I'm beat. I'm exhausted. And it'll be the 3rd game in 3 nights. So, and then Jerry, you've written about this, but it's part of the legacy, part of the lore of going to that final game. The first time Virginia had ever been in an ACC final at that point, ever played in a game. And our good friend, the late great Frank Burkhead, who was our manager and in charge of the car keys. We had rental cars. We gathered out to drive over to the Capitol Center, and Frank says to Coach Holland, Coach, I've lost the car keys. He had every set of car keys. We weren't taking a bus. There was no bus waiting. We're going over the first time in school history, and Frank can't find the car keys. There's this mad scramble. Let's get the alums. Let's get our fans, give us a ride over. So Frank goes back to his room one more time, and he was so nervous. He finally looked right on his bed, and they were exactly right where he left him. But he was so nervous he didn't see him the first time. So we were a little late, got our car keys, and it did loosen us up. We were laughing at Frank, as we often did anyway. And we ever played it. But North Carolina was great. I mean, they had 7 NBA guys, 5 of them first-round picks, 2 future rookies of the year on that team. And, we got down and made a little rally right at the end of the first half. Still down early in the second half and just, stay with it. So, it was a tight game and our guys were clutch. Billy Langlow, Bobby Stokes did nothing but hit clutch free throws down the stretch.
Wow. Now, I've often wondered this. So that had to be a great feeling, especially for you being 4th year. Your last shot at it.
Yep.
What was a greater feeling? Where did you feel more joy? Winning that or winning an NBA? You won 2 NBA championships. Yeah. And I understand that it's different. You're at a different stage of your life. But can you remember, can you pick between the 2?
Well, I'm glad that's a question that comes up. First of all, that's a nice question. But I actually have a clear answer. It was that Virginia win. I have a chill right now, even to think about it, because here's my visual. We're shooting free throws. We won the game. We're up 5. And now, I can look around the court and see our fans get poised, by the way. They're going to run out on the court. We didn't know how to act. We had never been in a position like that before to win a championship. But just to see the pure joy, I mean, they're 10, 20 feet away, just ringing the court, and many of whom, of course, I knew, we all knew that were there, and just it was such a cathartic experience. It wasn't just our first championship. Virginia never won a football ACC championship at that point either. So for us to feel like we'd done something, we were part of the first kind of major, if you want to call it that, but football, basketball ACC championship. And because the emotion of being, part of this community in Charlottesville and UVA for now and 4 years, that was you can't top that emotionally.
Yeah. You were on fire in that tournament too, Wally. I think I've written about this a few times too, but you were left off the All ACC team, and if I remember, you were a little bit pissed off about that. And you took it out on the rest of the people.
Well, that's right, and that's the right term. And that was one of my goals going into the year, to make All ACC, and I thought I'd had that kind of year.
And you did.
Yeah, Coach Holland, being the wise, and since Jeff, I can't see right now, but I bet you're smiling knowing that, he would use it as any good coach did, but he would always, think of what you're using to motivate your guys. But he said to us, the team, with me sitting there, well, what was wrong, what happened with Wally, should have made All ACC, and the only thing we can do to rectify that is go win this tournament. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, okay, coach, you try whatever you need to try, but that's not going to resonate with anybody. They don't care. Well, maybe they did. I don't know. No one's ever said that, but he did use it, and I guess it worked.
I'd say knowing Coach Holland, I don't, it doesn't sound like he showed it. I bet he was almost as pissed off as you were.
Yeah. Well, and then a crazy twist later, getting to him pissed off. The Olympic team that following summer was coached by Dean Smith. So the original 70 invitations go out for the Olympic trials, which were June and right before the NBA draft. And by the way, it wasn't just that game. I'd averaged 27 something against UNC for the season. In the 3 times we played them. In fact, in the game at UNC, I had 19 in the first half, and had to go to a zone in the second half because I had 19 in the first half, and I'd had 34 in the previous game against them. And we're leading at half at UNC. So anyway, I played well against them. I had a really good year. I'm the 5th pick in the NBA draft. And I don't go through my first wave. I'm not invited to go to the Olympic tryout camp. So Coach Holland went crazy, as did Bill Millsap. So you guys would know and remember about that. And I remember Terry telling me he called Dean about that, like, basically, are you kidding me?
I would have loved to have been on that phone call.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, Terry came back kind of spitting mad. You know how he was jaw set. He said, well, and gives me the nod, like, well, Dean blamed it on the committee. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So Wally, talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about your your NBA career and in particular, your first couple years. I mean, you stepped into an amazing situation in terms of being a part of some great teams there in Seattle.
Yeah. Well, and I was lucky. My first year, my rookie was in Portland.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, and Portland, the franchise had never made the playoffs in its franchise history, which wasn't that long, in 76, 77. Bill Walton was in his 3rd year there and had been injured. And an interesting twist, it was a couple of things that, one of which relates to Virginia, state of Virginia, which has been lost in history. So it was the first year of the ABA and NBA merged. They merged that summer. So Portland had acquired 3 players in the ABA dispersal draft that were established ABA players. Our good friend Dave Torzik was one of them, became starting point guard from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and Old Dominion, who played for the Squires, that people may remember. We got Maurice Lucas, who then became our starting power forward. And again, it come from the St. Louis franchise, had been dispersed. But the part that's been forgotten to history, been lost to history, is we got another big man in that dispersal draft, name of Moses Malone. Cool. So I go to training camp, and we've got a healthy Walton, and Moses is there. We're in training. We got Moses in training camp. He's not in the starting lineup. He's like playing backup power forward and center. Maurice Lucas is starting. Jack Ramsey, great coach, great Hall of Fame coach, is there and had a system. And Moses was Moses, and he played well in the ABA. But here's what happened. Our total payroll, and talk about times changing, the Portland Trailblazer championship team had a total payroll of $1.1 million for 12 players. Yeah. And Walton was over a third of that. And Moses had come in with his ABA contract. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it would have been, call it 300,000-ish. And I can remember Jack Ramsey, and we all love Mo because he just, you guys probably got to know him some. He just was a great guy to have around, just worked hard and good sense of humor. He called me all the years that I saw him in the NBA. He always called me homie because of UVA and him from Petersburg. But Jack Ramsey gathers us and he says, I know you guys all like Mo. We all like Mo. We like to keep. We couldn't afford him because our payroll would have been 1.4 million instead of 1.1 million. That was reality. So, but here's really, and this also has gotten forgotten. He got traded from Portland to Buffalo, which was now the Clippers, because Buffalo went from Buffalo after a couple of years to San Diego. But he goes to Buffalo for it was a couple of weeks, and they decided. Whatever, who knows who was doing that evaluation, but decided to trade him again. He got traded twice. It was like within a month. Portland to Buffalo, and then Buffalo to Houston, which of course all I did in Houston was become league MVP and the Hall of Fame player. But we had him in training camp, and of course then we did go in to win the title. Bill Walton was healthy most of the year. He had some downtime, but for most of the year he was healthy, and certainly was healthy in the playoffs. We play the Sixers in the finals that year, and we go down 2-0. We lose both games in Philly. And the Sixers were really talented. That was Dr. J and Daryl Dawkins and George McGinnis, World B. Free, Doug Collins, a bunch of Hall of Famers.
Bobby Jones?
Bobby Jones wasn't there yet. He was still,
okay.
He was still in Denver. He got there for 82 with Ivoroni on that was a championship team.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, Jelly Bean Joe Bryant was on that Sixers team. Steve Mix was an NBA. So, great talent. So it was a real contrast in styles. Portland was a real system, ball movement team, and Philly was more of the old school, one-on-one team. We go down 2-0. And this is one of the greatest psychological ploys, maybe a little con in him because he had a little con in him from Maurice Lucas. Game 2, there was a big fight. In the old days, the NBA, the fights weren't just guys talking and pointing and wolfing. They actually, punches were thrown and sometimes landed. But the fight was Maurice Lucas and Daryl Dawkins, two of the biggest, baddest guys there were around. And so, the Philly wins the game. Now we're down 2-0. We're coming back to Portland. Portland's in the finals. The fans are going crazy. But what's going to happen? Because they both got ejected. Don't know how it's going to evolve with the game. So introductions go, as they always do. And Maurice Luke goes out to the center court after he gets introduced. And he doesn't tell any of us what he's going to do. He goes out to midcourt and then just takes a right-hand turn and jogs over to the Sixers bench. And Dawkins is just sitting there because Sixers had already been introduced, and walks over to him, stands in front of him, shakes his hand. Well, he just is put on the psychological mantle of, hey, I'm the gracious, good guy, benevolent. Here, I'm offering my hand to you. Well, to diffuse the situation, it gave us such a psychological upper hand, and I think it totally diffused Dawkins. I know it diffused his rage, but maybe even his competitive edge. So anyway, we went on to win 4 straight games, 2 of them by blowouts in Portland, and a great series. Then again, I'll speak about how the NBA has changed. So then November of the following year, now I'm in training camp, my second training camp with the Blazers, and I'm playing in the rotation, but coming off the bench. And the rosters in November of 1977 have to be cut from 12 to 11 to save money because the league is losing money. And so everyone had to get rid of a player. Well, Portland chose to get rid of me. You know, they might have anyway, but they for me they got a first round and a second round pick from Seattle, which Seattle might have overpaid a little bit, but that was the deal. So I go to the Sonics. I go up I-5, the freeway. Portland gets the picks, and I go to a team. Portland was 10-1 when I got traded, so defending champ, best record in the league, to Seattle, who was 2-10 when I got traded. Going to 5, I led us to 3-7 the next 10 games, and then we changed coaches. Bob Hopkins got fired, and Lenny Wilkins took over, and we go from 5-17 with the same personnel to Game 7 of the NBA Finals that year. So incredible in-season turnaround.
Yeah.
Wow. I know we were talking before we pre-show today about one of your teammates in Portland was Bill Walton. Can you share any interesting experiences with the big guy?
Well, he was a character. That's probably the biggest understatement anyone can make about him. He lived in Northwest Portland, and Lionel Hollins and I lived in not a mile away. Lionel, it was the starting guard, great player, and good friend. We're in the same building, so with Bill, we used to ride to the airport together, and he'd have us over for dinner. We were a couple of single guys, we're clueless. A couple of anecdotes relate to Bill, kind of taking me under the newbie under his wing. We had just broken training camp, and the Who, the rock band The Who, was playing at Portland Coliseum. So Bill says to me, hey man, you want to go see the Who concert with me? I'm like, yeah, you think? I'm going to go see the Who with Bill Walton, and I'm thinking to myself, man, he's going to have some great seats. We'll sit there and take in the music. What's better than that? Well, guess what? There were no seats. We were in the nosh pit with everyone else because Bill was like a man of the people. He went so we're there, and I love the Who, but after 2 hours, like, man, I just want to get out of there. I want to get on my feet. But Bill, he was out with his people. The same thing he did for decades with the Grateful Dead. Yeah. But then the other story was, since I already referenced it, but Bill had a big old house, and he had a lot of people living there. And he had Lionel and I go over for dinner, and it'd be like 20 people, at dinner, and Lionel would go, and we wouldn't get introduced to about half of them, but they were living there. So every time we'd walk out of the house to drive back to our apartment building. We were in different units, but and one of us was inevitably, what did we just have for dinner? I don't know. I don't know what that was. And they're like, and who was that dude you were talking to? I got no idea. I never caught his name. But that was Bill. He had people staying there, and it was kind of a little commune. That was him.
Wally, you mentioned earlier a good friend of ours, Mark Ivoroni.
Yeah.
He was on that 76 team.
Oh yeah.
And obviously, was a good player, but he had an unusual development arc, because after he finished, college, he didn't, he I don't know if he was drafted or what, but he didn't go to the NBA or whatever, and then he came back and he was on the staff for our 1981 Final Four team before going to the NBA. I'm just curious, how good was Mark when he was playing with you? I know he was a year younger.
2 years.
2 years younger.
Yeah.
But did he just make a big jump? What do you think was the difference? Because obviously he had when he went with the 76ers, he was a starter on a great team.
Championship team.
Yeah.
He is one of the best cases of perseverance that I know of, and I know a lot of them. It relates to an NBA career, because he got cut multiple times, multiple years from NBA teams. He went and played in Italy for a couple years.
Yes.
So he was back and forth when he was helping out with the coaching staff. He'd already played professionally in Italy, but wasn't really on a path to look like he's ever going to make the NBA. He kept trying, kept getting cut. But then he drives himself out to LA for the summer league, and he's playing just as a free agent in the summer league. That'd be that summer of '82.
Yeah. It was after. Yeah, it was after.
And Billy Cunningham sees him, and they sign him to a non-guaranteed contract. He not only makes a team, but becomes a starter. But going back, he was good when we got him. He started as a freshman, really as a center. In my third year, his first year, it was Terry's first year. So he one of his first recruits. He was recruited, but not highly recruited as a big All-American. But he was always feisty. Billy Langlo told a story, I think, at that ACC special about the ACC tournament where they gave us some airtime. His nickname was Psycho. He earned it. But we went through layup lines, and we were playing. It didn't matter. It wasn't even a big game or rival. And we see him standing at midcourt. Actually, we didn't see him before. We heard him first. He's like standing at midcourt, just the other team's going through their layups, and he's just screaming at him, just yelling at him, like cursing at him, like we're looking like, what is going on here? But he got wound up, and just always battled. And his second year, then the year we won the title, he averaged kind of 12 and 6, and was just a really good power forward. Otis Fulton came in as a freshman, as a 6'11" and played center. So Mark got to slide over to his natural, power forward position.
Yeah. So, and did Katz was Katz with you guys too? Yeah.
Yes, he came off the bench and backed up both the 4 and 5 positions. So he was the first big man off the bench. So we were big.
Yeah, and talented. I mean, that's a good team. Yeah. That just tells you how daggone good the ACC was then too. Just with fewer teams.
Yeah, and of course, only 7 teams, so you played everybody so much, you knew everybody. You were working at summer camps together, so it was a kind of a brotherhood.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Jerry's got the clock going over there, but before we get off,
we got plenty of time.
Okay, talk to me, because I know you played a role, but this year's Virginia team. I've said on this show and have said to a lot of people, I think what Ryan and the staff and you and whomever else, the composition of the roster, whether was all 100% intentional, whether some of it was just dumb luck, whatever it is. It's about as good as I think a college coach can do in these years, because they've got the blend of talent, great attitudes, and kind of the character part, and it just fits really, really well. What do you think about the team, and were you biting on your nails the other night when it was going into overtime?
I was, but as probably stating the obvious, the good teams win the ugly ones, and that was a disjointed ugly one until we found a way, and we were gritty and self-minded, which has been impressive all year. Credit goes to Ryan and his group. They asked me to help with a few little things. What they also did was do a good job identifying players in the portal early on, and with the help of data analytics. That's a place that I hope I've helped too. But still, the coaches and Ryan and staff got to make those final decisions. That the role, the title GM, the role of the GM is tossed around in college now, but it's still the head coach in almost all situations is still that final arbiter. It's not the pro GM who's making the personnel decision. The college coach is in charge of his roster and may have personnel people helping, and certainly his coaches. But those guys, get credit. Now, I've heard Matt Henry use the term, assistant coach. That early on for them, it was speed dating, and we had to sign guys so quickly with nobody coming back. And good analysis was done. But there was a little luck involved too, because you didn't really have time to get to know players. It's not like the mid-major guys, you hadn't necessarily recruited them or knew their families. You saw them on video, of course, when you're scouting after data analytics weighed in. But the reality is, without that, well, you never have full knowledge at any level, but you have better knowledge, at least some background. Those guys didn't, we didn't, and the guys are fantastic. We hit the jackpot for character, for toughness, togetherness, and Ryan and staff have to get a lot of credit for that too. And Jeff, you were at practice this past summer. It was evident almost from day one. They worked hard with focus. The energy was great, and they just they complemented each other. They were the attitude and helping one another. And those of us who've been around a long time, and I qualify for that for sure. But I've seen a lot of practice. Came away every time saying, and I had a discussion with you and with Rick Carlisle. He was there a lot. Like, they may have something here. We don't know how they're going to compete in games, but they really do blend and react to each other. Now, the process was a process, and we got good players, and we needed to right away. But where things happened and really fell into place was late with the Euros.
Yes.
Because Grunlow and DeRitter didn't get signed till late. The data analytics don't really cover the Euros in the same way. So, that was old-fashioned, hey, we don't know them well. They played at a high level over there. Now we're seeing them play against good play. Here's a little anecdote about DeRitter. So, he comes. We know he's interested, but he's also eligible for the draft. And so now he's actually going to teams and working out. So I hope I was helpful here. He goes to the Rockets to work out. Well, let's find out about him. And here's the report I get from the Rockets, which is, again, we, at this point he hadn't visited, but we're seeing him on video. Well, report comes back, he's legit 6'9". Because what we all know is a lot of 6'9" guys,
right?
In person are 6'6.5". No, legit 6'9". Okay, he shot it great in their workout. Okay, he only averaged 8 or 9 points a game in a very good league. Well, his stroke looked fine, but he said no, he shot it great. But here's the thing that really stood out on the report before we did sign him. He's got a post-up game. Well, Jeff, how many guys, particularly younger players and big guys, have a post-up game anymore? And that was what the Rockets guys, told us. So kind of like, I think he could go in the second round. We're not sure.
Yeah.
But then the crazy thing about, last spring was, the college guys were getting paid more. And I'm not going to name numbers. And in many cases, I don't know them. Than what NBA second round picks are getting. I had to catch myself at one point saying, we're offering more than NBA players are getting. The reality was last spring with that NIL through June 30th, that was the case. Then he comes for his visit. And he's a great guy. And besides the player that he is, and then you get Johan, who's also a very, very good player with an NBA future. And again, first time you lay eyes on him, like, well, he's really 7 feet tall. He is. So anyway, those guys came late and really, complimented the rest of the skill guys. We had and have, fortunately, really good talent and size on the wing.
Yeah. And I got to believe that Ugo, the way he is playing, has probably surprised some people. Certainly surprised me. When I saw him the first time this summer till now, I mean, he's an impactful player.
Totally. He's a guy that really, and here, of course, here's the art of evaluating players. He really didn't get much done at Kansas State his junior year, and Kansas State was a poor team. They had a losing record.
Yep.
And his numbers were not impressive. You saw him in video. He didn't only play 10, 11 minutes. Well, I'll give credit to our data analytics people there too, because they had records of all his games going back and said, we need a player of this type. So go get him. And there was nothing in his prior year to really support that. But here's one, most of the credit goes to him because he's embraced it. I also love the fact that Ryan and our coaches have given him confidence. They've never tried to limit him. It's not like you can't do that. Don't ever take a three. I think that's what he's been told. Yeah.
I'm laughing because I can still remember Dave Odom's song practice the first time, and he called me that day, and he was like, "Ryan's letting him shoot the three."
By
I,
the way, it looks fine. And the other thing is, I don't remember what his free throw percentage was last year or his 2 previous years at Kentucky, but he's got confidence in his stroke now. His free throw looks good too. Whether that translates because he knows people think he's got a decent stroke. I'm not sure, but he looks like a player.
Yeah.
I remember interviewing him post game after his first good game here, and he happened to mention that at Kansas State he wasn't allowed to shoot, and I had a follow-up question. I said, uh, "Why weren't you allowed to shoot? Was it a matter of self-confidence, or uh, just part of the game plan, or did the coaches tell you not to shoot?" And he said the coaches at Kansas State told me not to shoot, and he says here they're letting me, experiment and stuff, and so uh, I don't think Kansas State knew what to do with him.
Yeah, and what we know too, I mean, with those two protecting the rim, there's and they got drawn out some. I mean, schools or teams are trying to figure out, how to try to bring them out. Notre Dame certainly did the other night, but there's no weak stuff allowed at the rim with those guys back there.
Yeah, yeah. I do think that's Notre Dame did, and then late in the game against Carolina when Visar, the Carolina center, got in foul trouble.
Right.
I think they fell into that, but then they were playing Caleb Williams and
Stevenson started making
Stevenson together.
Yeah.
And that forced, I think it was Grunlow more than Yenso, but that forced him into situations that he wasn't really comfortable. I think we might be seeing some other teams, if they have the personnel, but go small to try to negate that rim.
Yeah, and Jeff, you know this well, and you dealt with it and coached it well. But it's interesting to me. The college game has evolved more towards the matchup game that the NBA game has been, where coaches are just figuring out what matchup they want to attack. So when teams are switching, where do you get to switch and where do you attack? And there used to be more systems, and now Notre Dame did a ton of that the other night.
Yeah. I won't say. Yeah, I'm watching. I'm seeing one of Virginia's players standing there after the shot was made. Like, what do I got to do?
Yeah, I know. Well, you might have been like me yelling at the TV saying, make them put it on the floor. But
get up.
But they were so far out there that it's totally against your instincts to force them to drive from way out there.
Yeah, it's hard to really get mad when the one kid, the kid that scored 34, made the jump shot in the first half from the logo.
From the logo.
Yeah.
From the logo.
How do you guard that?
Yeah, you're not used to guarding that. So that's right.
You know what? If Richard Morgan was watching that game, he loved that shot. He and Curtis Staples, they were probably going crazy.
Well, I go a little crazy because back in the Pleistocene era when I played, those shots were twos. They weren't threes.
Yeah,
for sure.
I always say that Lee Raker is the guy that was hurt the most by not having the 3-point line.
He had good range.
Because he shot it. I mean, everything that he shot was well beyond the three. But
just talking about Virginia's big men, to me, that seems like that's been the difference with this team in its overall quality. And I think it's going to be hard for ACC teams to match up with Virginia because of that. What do you, as players and Jeff being a former coach, what do you think about that? It just seems like it's a really built-in advantage for Virginia to have three physical guys in the paint like that. Although they're not all in there together, but it just seems to be a difference maker.
Well, I'll take first crack at it. Yeah, yeah. And DeRitter is a man, and he's not a rim protector like the other two. But the fact he's got a post up game and go inside and get to the basket, that's a relative rarity in college sports. And maybe to where you're going, Jerry, but I'll answer to what I think you're saying. There's no matchup that we need to fear. I mean, we still got to execute,
Right.
to do the things that we can do and make some shots, of course. But we can't get in a matchup where you say, it just there's no way we can adjust to that team. I don't worry about that.
Yeah, I think Jerry, having the depth there is a big asset, because that allows the rest of the players to defend that 3-point line, and that's such a big part of the college game now, that with those big guys inside, taking away so much of the opponent's interior offense. I think that gives Virginia an advantage, but in my opinion, the depth, and within every game, I think you see it. But the other night it was DeRitter. Go back a few games and Malik Thomas was he was shooting the lights out. And what was it? Not the Stanford, Louisville game. Jakari, he's struggling a little bit trying to get back into but he had huge games where he came through. There's just so many different contributions. I would point to that as really being the strength of the team. And then Dallin Hall, he's not scoring the ball a lot. I love Dallin Hall. I mean, his leadership, the toughness, you can see him, whether it's live, whether you're watching on TV, you can see him communicating in a good way, and it's not all peaches and cream or whatever. He will do it, but he does it in such a way that I think the other guys respond to it. And defensively, Jerry, we talked about that last week. He's given them a lot of stuff. He's not scoring a lot of points. Chance is more offensive minded, as a guard. But all those guys together, they fit, like Wally was talking about earlier. Great character and the kind of the focus on the team. It's not about me. It's about we. I think you see that in how they play. It's one thing to talk about it. Everybody in the country tries to talk about it, but what you're seeing with the Virginia team is guys that are, battling, against a common opponent, with one another, and they don't care. One guy might get the points and the shots, for one game, and it might be somebody totally different the next 3 or 4 games. And I think because of that, that bodes well in the long run. Anybody's vulnerable, I think, in any particular game, right? Any given Sunday.
Right.
But I think for the long haul, Virginia's built for success.
Yeah, and we haven't talked about a guy too that I was really impressed with all summer. And Jeff, I think we talked about him. I know Rick Carlisle. I came out after a practice one day, and I'm talking about Devin Tillis.
Oh yeah,
that we kind of said, you walk in the gym and like, who's that dude? We get him from the YMCA, or he didn't look that athletic. But he's he's a great guy and leader, along with Dallin. The guys really respect him. He's really positive and he's funny, but he's such a smart player.
Yes.
And he's skilled. He's not a great athlete, but his skill level, and I think our fans didn't really see his potential for contribution when he was coming off that knee surgery, and now we're starting to see it. He's really going to help us.
Yeah, great point, Wally. And I actually got a chance to see him in the NIT in the semifinals and finals last year, playing for for Russell Turner.
Yeah.
So when Ryan told me that Tillis was coming, I had no idea that Virginia was even recruiting him, and I was like, "Oh, that is a great get." I mean, that kid, he knows how to play the game. He makes winning plays. Hasn't always been a big scorer, but he can handle, he can pass. He works defensively, and like you said, just a really, really high IQ basketball player.
Yeah, and we haven't even mentioned Sam Lewis, who
Yeah.
is a quiet assassin, so to speak.
The three he hit to tie the game. One was an incredible shot. One, presence of mind to get himself. But he either sold it or he got fouled. Either one or a great play by him. But he might have gotten fouled. But it's one to make the shot and maybe get fouled and have a chance for a 4-point play. The other play, which great presence of mind. We don't win the game without it. The air ball that he catches and throws up and catches the rim underneath before Tess, put it back in, just to know the clock and knowing you got to get out of your hands and hit the rim. Without that too, again, we don't win that game.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Absolutely. That last second shot by Sam, that's exactly how Ryan drew it up. I'm sure.
Ryan said later he was, because the play would seem to be kind of evaporating there. He was really close to calling a timeout.
It did look good. Nobody wanted to shoot it, and then finally Sam came flying in there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, well, Wally, one thing I got to ask you before we end this thing is, a lot of people may not realize it because you had such a great career in Portland and Seattle. Some people may have forgotten that you played for the Houston Rockets when Ralph got there, the number one draft choice in the league. What was it like being part of that Rockets team when I guess everybody naturally assumed that Ralph was going to be the number one choice, and what was the mood of the team, the atmosphere like before he got there, and actually when he did get there?
Well, we talked about some great teams I played on, championship teams in Seattle and Portland. The Rockets were at the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, my first year I got traded to Houston from Seattle, and of course the reason we were able to draft Ralph was because we had the worst team and worst record in the league. I was a starter on that team, the worst team in the league, but I was. But then Ralph gets there, of course, and he's a nationally known, National Player of the Year, and I don't know if people remember. I do because I had a ringside seat. How good he was that first year. And he had to play center because Elijah didn't come till a year later. Of course, he was healthy. But he averaged 21 and 12 on a team, and we weren't that good that year. We could have, I'm going to tell you a story about that. But he was, and by the way, all the centers in the NBA, if you go back and look at all the rosters now, almost all of them are in the Hall of Fame. So it's like, well, you got Kareem tonight, and we didn't double team back then. You got Kareem, he's got a pretty good sky hook, try to take that away from him. And then next night you got Moses, keep him off the offensive board, would you? And the next night might be Issel, who's 3 points. So those are really hard. And Ralph's playing center, and he's averaging 21 and 12. So he was great. But that team, his rookie year, my last year in the NBA, was the reason they put in an NBA draft lottery, because we were pretty talented and we were doing fine. We weren't great. But then it becomes clear that, we'd like to get the number one pick again. The local media starts talking about it. And just down the street, University of Houston's playing with Hakeem. Well, we find a way to lose our last 10 games in a row. Ralph, was in street clothes for part of them. Part of them, the matchups were a little wonky. I can remember a game in Kansas City. It was San Antonio, where I hadn't played the whole game. And the game, it's a close game. We're scrapping, we're playing hard. And, Bill Fitch was the coach, Hall of Famer now. Coach calls me, take off my sweats. get in there. Great. I'm going into the, close game at the end. Who do I get? Get Ralph. Oh, really? And he says to me, try not to smirk, you got Gilmore. Like, what? Yeah, good to keep him up. So we were not trying to win at the end, and it was so obvious they did put the draft lottery in right after that.
That's a great story. I've never heard that one before.
Those kind of stories, Brian Stith used to talk about when towards the end of his career, I guess he was with Cleveland, and they actually, Tyrone Hill and Bryant, they actually had a decent team, kind of like what you're talking about. But he said it became clear that they were tanking for LeBron, and those guys would, the starters, they'd have a lead and they'd come out and they'd stay out. He's like, there's no way that they were going to, try to win. And, after a while, they never asked Bryant or anybody to not play well.
Right.
It's just they would just take them out.
No, nothing was communicated to us directly, but
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you one more anecdote if we have time, Jerry. So Elvin Hayes is there, and it's his last year. Again, we're playing San Antonio now at home, now on the road, and the starting lineup was Elvin at center. Ralph is in street clothes. I'm playing the power forward. We got like 3 rookies. That's our starting team. Well, but we're hustling, we're scrapping, and the game is close because I'm the last year of deal. No one would pay me after that, but I didn't know that at the time. And we're going into the fourth quarter, and Bill Fitch pulls out the stat sheet, and Elvin now, who's 38, 39 years old, has played all 36 minutes at the end of the third quarter. He's exhausted. And he's playing center. He's playing Gilmore. And Fitch pulls out the stat sheet, and Elvin's now got like 5 assists. Elvin, if you guys remember him, not a passer.
No.
Not a guy who was not an assist guy. And Fitch says, okay, guys, whenever Elvin passes you the ball, you shoot it. I don't care where you are on the court. So we put Elvin at the high post, and now we're throwing him a pass and we're cutting, and like San Antonio's looking like, well, what is this? We don't know anything about this, but it's kind of working. So now Elvin, because Fitch says, sorry if I left this part out, says, yeah, have a triple double. Elvin says, well, no, he's never had enough assists. So Fitch says, we're going to get him the triple double. So you're going to shoot it for wherever he passes, you're going to shoot it. Well, Elvin throws a terrible pass to Terry Teagle, who's a rookie, over in front of the visitor's bench. And Terry makes an athletic, miraculous save where he catches the ball just before it goes out of bounds and flips it back over his head where we keep possession. He doesn't shoot it, but we still have the ball. Fitch flies off the bench. Timeout. So we come over the bench, and Bill says to Terry Teagle, I'm going to clean it up here, but he said, I told you to shoot the ball every blanking time Elvin passed it to you. And Terry's like, wait, he threw out of bounds. I was just trying to save it. I don't care. You're shooting every time. So that was the mode we were in. That was an NBA game we were in. We lost in a last-second shot. Terry Teagle, after he got screamed at, airballed one from he had about an 8-footer, shot about 6 feet, and we lost by 1.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I also have to ask you this: between you and Park Hill, who's the better golfer?
Oh, he is. I'm later to it. I do like it, but he's very, very, very solid. I'm mediocre. I pay a lot of dues every month to these golf clubs, but I'm still mediocre.
What's your favorite golf course that you played?
Well, I hope it doesn't sound like name dropping, but maybe it is. I'm lucky to be a member of a course called Cypress Point out in Pebble Beach, and it's a spectacular course. Some people think there's none better. So that's my bias. I play here at Farmington mostly. I love that too, but no, it's Cypress Point.
I've always heard it. Pebble Beach gets all the acclaim, but Cypress is the place to go.
It's if anybody saw the Walker Cup last year, Cypress Point hadn't been on television since the early '90s, and
yeah,
people were reminded of what you just said. It's something.
Yeah, that's cool. we'll razz Park Hill when we get him on here.
Yeah, you can. Uh, he's a player. He can hit it.
He won't admit it.
Yeah.
No, he won't.
Yeah.
He acts like he never
trying to get an
played.
index. What's your handicap? I don't have one. Like what? He doesn't record his scores, so that's him.
Yeah, he always teases me when he gets back from a trip and plays at another great golf course. I think he's played them all.
He has.
And he called me, I think it was a couple of summers ago, and he said, "You won't believe the two courses I've played this past weekend on I think a Friday or a Saturday, and then on a Monday." And so I made a few guesses, didn't hit any of them. He said, "Friday I played Pine Valley, which for those of you not familiar is rated the number one course in America, if not
Well, the
world.
world
I
actually.
think the world
Yeah.
actually." And I said, "Okay." And then he said, "On Monday, I played the course at the top of the mountain over here, off 64. What's the name of that course up there? It's um, maybe one of the worst courses in America." I can't think of the name, but I played it myself about 50 times. But anyway, he went from probably the number one course in the world to maybe the number 1 millionth course in the world in 3 days. So,
Well, one of my favorite golf memories is a day that I had with Barry and Tony Bennett at Augusta. Uh, Tom Farrell, our late great friend, great UVA, he's a classmate of mine, but did so much for the university and the state, frankly. Took us down there, and we had a day.
yeah, I've heard stories about that. That's pretty good. Tony won't talk about it. He never talks about his golf, but he's a pretty good player too, isn't
He's a really good player, and he hadn't played. This was in April, was right after the season. And on number 15, he did have an eagle putt, the par five with the wash around by water. So
right?
Tony is one of those guys. He's just good.
Yeah, I played not long after that. I played the new I guess the executive course over at Farmington. They wanted me to do a story on it, and so I played with Bowen Sargent and his assistant,
Oh,
and another fella, and we got through, and Rob McNamara, the pro, came over and he said, "Well, did you set the course record?" And I said, "Well, no, but I did play well." And he said, "You'll never guess who has the course record." And I said, "I have no idea." And he said, "Tony Bennett."
yeah.
But he said, "Don't ask Tony about it because he won't tell you about it."
Well, I'll tell you a funny story about Bowen and the men's golf team, because I was great for me, fun for me. I hope it was for them. When they won their regionals last year and they're on their way to the NCAA finals, they were going from Reno to San Diego. La Costa was where the finals were. So I said to Bowen, "Hey, if you guys ever want to play at Cypress Point, I'll try to get there to be a part." And sorry, uh, and get you on. So when they won the regional in Reno, I got that call, and Bowen says, "Well, you did ask." I said, "No, you're on. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there." So I take them, and we have two foursomes. So Bowen's in the foursome ahead of mine, and there's a place you come off between 11 and 12. The foursome ahead of us is coming down. He's got Ben. He's playing with Ben James. I'm playing with a couple of the other guys. Brian Lee. Anyway, they're all fantastic young men, besides great players.
Yeah.
And so as we intersect, "Bowen, how you doing?" He said, "I had 4 birdies on the front." And then, fantastic. That's great. But then the 3 guys I'm playing with on his team are going like, "Oh no, we got to get in the car with him for 6 hours. We're driving to San Diego, and if he beats us, we're going to hear about it for 6 hours." So but they're all competing, and those guys they basically their take was, we got to pick it up because we don't want to hear about how he beat us for that long drive.
Nah, Bowen wouldn't rub it in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's a good way to end the show. Thank you so much, Wally, for spending some time with us and sharing all those memories, some great stories, and we really appreciate it. I know our viewers and listeners are going to eat this up.
Well, always good to be with you guys. I appreciate you remembering all the support you give the current program too. By the way, I'm hoping, and stay tuned, I think we're going to have a gathering of our 50-year team. So we're working on that.
I've heard rumors about that. That would be awesome. Has that team ever been honored before? Maybe it has. I don't know.
Yeah, we've been honored a couple of times, but I can't believe it's 50 years.
50 years. Yeah.
It's hard to believe.
I can't believe how many people say to me, they were there. I think in some cases,
kind of like
true.
Woodstock.
Yeah, right. Woodstock. Yeah, Wilt's 100-point game. Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's great news. We're talking about this season, right?
Yeah.
That would be awesome. I can't wait to see that. We'll have to do a story on that.
Well, we've lost a few along the way, so we're working on it. We're hoping we get most of the guys back.
That would be great. That would be awesome.
Was Bob McKeag on that team, Wally?
No, he was. No. He's 2 years ahead of me.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, he's still around. We see Bob.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, that'll wrap it up. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it. Spread the word about the show, and we'll see you next week. Godspeed, JJ, Wally. See you soon.
Cheers.